All right, hello, welcome back. Welcome back to our review kits on business environment. Okay, so let's just finish up these past questions and round up our review kit on business environment. Okay, so let's look at this question. This question six that I have from ICANN past question says now a manager that wants to be successful in his or her business environment should be able to make use of the various business analysis and models to know which products and markets to retain or grow. Required A. Explain briefly the concept of macroeconomics and state three approaches that can be used to measure total economic activity during a given period of time. 10 marks. Now, let me teach you how to approach questions like this is an exam. Please, the first thing you look at in the question is one, we have look at the requirement, but we are going to look at one thing, which is what? The allocation of marks. This is 10 marks. Now, note that they said explain briefly the concept of macroeconomics, meaning that marks, this macroeconomics answer will get you around a mark. And the three approaches, mentioning and explaining them, and state the three approaches that can be used to measure total economic activity will give you 3 marks each. So that means that one, we need to explain macroeconomics and then at the same time state the three approaches. Now, not the word state, they didn't say explain long. Just okay, so let's start from brief concept of math and imagine they even said briefly. So briefly means that you have to be very careful and just ensure that you do what maybe 1 or 2 lines and you are good to go. You don't have to write story to get that mark because you have to be very conscious of managing your time in the exam. So let's start from what's macroeconomics. Okay, macroeconomics in very simple terms is that aspect of economics or study of economics that looks at the economic as a what as a whole, studies the economics the economy as a what as a whole. So it doesn't look at individual, it doesn't look at units, individual units. So we look at issues like unemployment, inflation, and all those others. So that's the concept of macroeconomics. So please, just 1 or 2 lines. This is the study of aggregate units in the economy or the study of the whole economy compared to individual units in the world in the economy. So it looks at issues like unemployment, inflation, national income. Simple and get your mark and move. Then please, this second says state the three approaches that can be used to measure total economic activity during a given period of what? Given period of time. Okay. So please, for this particular aspect, they're asking us to what? To state three approaches that can be used to measure total economic activity. Of course, that's national income accounting. You have three methods. I've explained that before. You have the expenditure approach, your income approach, and your what? Your output approach. Please note, when you are solving this kind of question in the exam, please, you should ensure that you do what? You use your what? You do your state three. So that means you are not supposed to write so much story. Marks 2 or 3 lines. Just mention the approach and explain what the approach. So expenditure approach measures national or total economic activity from the perspective of what? The spending by what? By the units in the economy. So when we use expenditure, we look at what is the spending by individuals, firm, and the what? And the government, and that arrives at our what? Our national income. We have the income approach. So that looks at what? Aggregate of the total income earned by all individuals in the world in the economy. That gives us a national. And the last one, of course, output approach. Look at the value of output by all industries. So you just give short explanation like that and mention, and you get your marks. So please be smart and be precise in the exam. Let's look at more past questions and how to approach questions. Now, look at this one. Define the term supervision. I've explained that, so I'm not going to go back. Okay. So please define the term supervision. 2 marks. This kind of question, you are not supposed to spend hours giving long story. Just supervision is 2 or 3 lines, precise, get your marks. Look at the second one. This is 18 marks, meaning that you are expected to really do a lot in this. Now, Henry Mintzberg suggested that managers perform 3 main roles. I've explained that, I've done that thoroughly, so you can go back. I won't do that again because that's so clear and so straightforward from what is in the study, is in the review course notes, and I've also explained that thoroughly, so I'm not going to go back. You should have left that in your jottings by now. Okay, what are the 3 major roles performed by managers? Then they can be further analyzed into 10 different roles. I spent time explaining those 10 different roles. Classify and explain this management for the roles. You can see it's much. So that means one, you first explain 3 main roles. Okay, That's that. That's most likely 3 marks. Then the 10 different rows, maybe 1.5 each, to make up your what, your 18 marks. So please, this one, because they are much too, you are going to first explain the 3 main rows. Please, for this kind of question, you are not going to also write story. Do you understand? You are going to, okay, so what are the 3 rows? One line, 2 line, 3 lines. Then 10 different rows. You start listing those rows and giving small explanation, because this kind of question, if you are not careful, it can take a lot of your time in the exam. So you have to be very precise in answering, considering the mark. So for each one, imagine you are writing one. For each of those 10 rows, you are writing 6, 7 lines. Before you finish the 10 lines, you have spent almost 40, 50 minutes. So please, that's how to approach questions in the exam. Let's look at more questions now. This is the last November 2025 now. The matrix organizational structure is intricate but facilitates achievement of the ultimate goal of what? Enhanced productivity. Okay. Describe a matrix type of organizational structure. I've also explained this. Remember, I said the matrix type of organizational structure is a type of organizational structure where you what? Where you have what? Where you have multiple command system or structures. Remember, I told you you have your normal line managers. I have like project managers. I've explained this thoroughly. So you describe that. That means you had especially like around 4 or 5 lines for matrix to get your 5 marks. Then what are the advantages of what? Of a matrix organization. So that's 7.5 marks. So one is what? 1.5 marks. So please, you just have to list the advantages out. So one of the advantages is that this is the type of organization that really makes use of what? Of specialized personnel. It makes use, because like if you don't understand matches, it's not based on projects. So professionals are really used in the world in the organizational structure. Then it produces professional with a broader scope of responsibility, because under that matrix system, you are going to have a professional can be handling 3, 4 different projects. That means it gives you ability to be able to what? Develop your scope, make sure that you can handle just not one area, you become more broad. Okay. Then the use of matrix structure helps to develop the skills and competencies of a what? Of a professional. So I've just I'd like to, please, you can go back to the materials to get those. So those are the advantages of matrix. Okay. Then state and explain 5 disadvantages of matrix too. You can also get that. That's under 7.5 marks. Okay, those are very simple, straightforward questions. Look at this question. Globalization is an economic context that refers to integrated economies characterized by free trade, unrestricted movement of capital, okay, access to foreign resources, labor market, maximizing return, promoting the common required. List and explain 4 recent technological changes that have contributed to globalization. Please, 6 marks. So list and explain, very short. So let's look at it together. What are the major things that have affected globalization? I'm sure you are familiar with some of them, but let's look at some of them together. All right. So one, okay. So the first one is of course internet and internet what? Communication. That's one of the major breakthroughs that's affected what? That's affected globalization on a what? On a large scale. Internet. The advent of internet has actually helped this on a very large scale. Internet has opened up everybody to the global world. Now you can order things from China, from anywhere in the world. You can school anywhere in the world. Two, communication technology. Communication technology has also grown largely. That's one of the major technical changes. So communication technology such as 4G, 5G network that have drastically improved the speed, capacity, and responsiveness of mobile and other internet other devices like that. Then another major one is what? Internet of Things and artificial intelligence. Of course, AI. AI is the thing now. AI is everywhere, which is one of the also recent technological changes that have contributed to what? Globalization. Then blockchain technology, blockchain, crypto, and all those things. Okay? Blockchain provides a transparent, fraud resistant ledger for recording and verifying transactions. That's what we call blockchain technology. Then, okay, so those are examples of 4 recent technological changes that have contributed to what? Globalization. Okay, now it says list and explain 3 types of globalization. I've explained that in the materials, but let's look at it. Now I said we have economic globalization. This refers to increasing integration of international financial markets. You understand that financial markets are getting integrated, economic globalization. So the world is becoming one economic globe. You can now have access to foreign markets and all those things. You have political globalization, the development of policies and frameworks that bring countries together. Example, European Union, you have the G7, you have the different ones like that, African Union. Those are examples of political what? Global. Then lastly, you have what? Cultural globalization. Cultural globalization. So these are focus on which cultures are becoming more what? More interconnected, and they are becoming similar to what? Similar to each other. Largely due to societal and technological what? Changes. Okay, so social media has actually helped a lot in that. You see that everybody's almost, to some extent, there are global things that are acceptable almost everywhere now. Okay, then lastly, state and explain four significant aspects of globalization. Okay, so in other words, this like saying state the advantages of what? Globalization. Okay, so one, let's look at it together. And one, of course, globalization solves or is solving economic problems. It moves now is, for example, if I'm in Nigeria and I'm not easily getting a job in Nigeria, globalization has made this I can actually work remotely for a company in the US. So it's solving a lot of what? Economic problems. It gives developed countries one access to what? Access to developing countries. They can sell their, that's why countries like China, US, they can sell their products here. And for less developed countries, like I said, it gives us access to jobs and opportunities for what? For development. We also get access to investment from these developed what? Nations. Okay, then promoting free trade, that's another significant aspect or advantage of globalization. Now you have more of what? Free trade. You know, before you had a lot of barriers before you can buy from these tariff taxes, but now the world is becoming one global. Now I can order a phone from as far as China, I can order a product from as far as Canada. That's one of the advantages of what? Of globalization. Okay, it's also spurring economic development. Okay, you can give developing countries access to foreign capital and technology they would otherwise not what? Not have. Okay, all right, so that's also another advantage of what? Of globalization. Okay, then lastly, okay, and then let's look at one more. Okay, promoting shared cultural what? Understanding. Okay, so that's another advantage of what? Of global. It promotes what? Cultural shared what? Understanding. Okay, so that's another advantage of what? Globalization. Let's look at one or two more past questions and we round up. Okay, all right, let's look at this question. It says now the term leadership and management are often used interchangeably, of course. So leadership and management, you will see that in most cases you can use them interchangeably. At times you use them for each other. But now clearly define the concept of what? Leadership, but they are different. So one, they ask you to define what is leadership. I've dealt with that in the previous 2.5 marks. Like I told you, a very question. And you that. Okay, next, provide a direct explanation of management. What is also management? Another 2.5 marks. Then identify and explain five key distinctions between a leader and a manager. Each one is 1.5 marks. So that also tells you that you just explain in very short lines the key distinction. A leader is this while a manager is this. I've dealt with that extensively when we're looking at the review kit together. Okay, then outline five key similarities to between the leadership and management in organization. That's another 5.5 marks, making what? 20 marks. So please, that brings us to the end of what? Business environment review kit. All right, thank you.